subsidies to private insurance companies. That ought to make you think a little bit right there. The U.S. Constitution, the Obamacare, or the Obama administration has indicated that it might try to tax employers and hand out those subsidies anyway, even in states that don't create an exchange, and even though neither Obamacare nor any other federal law gives it the power to do so. If that happens, the fact that a state has refused to create an exchange would give every large employer in the state, including the state government itself, the ability to go to court to block the administration's attempt to disrupt Congress's legislative powers. Oh, something to think about. Let's listen to this.
So it did happen overnight. The group that's pushing this agenda across the state is very well organized. They oftentimes have been in to visit with the mayor and the city council. They probably worked to get some of those people elected in the first place. The ordinance is largely drafted when they visit with them the first time, and if you're not paying attention, these things come up and they're passed before you realize it. So then we move fast forward to November 1st, and Paul's going to give us some history on what happened here in Hutchinson, so I'll leave that to Paul. Needless to say, the issue came up here in Hutchinson. Shortly after the first of the year, the issue came up in Salina, Pittsburgh, and Wichita. So we now have 4 cities where this has come up. And the agenda is very clear. They're looking to pass this in a number of cities across the state. Once they get one victory, then the next city is going to fall even faster. Finally, you get 2 or 3 cities, and it's easier to do in the 5th and 6th and 7th city. Pretty soon, you have half the state living under these rules. They can go to Topeka, and they can talk to the legislature and say, look, these rules have passed in half the towns, and nobody's done anything. Nobody really cares. So why don't we just pass the law at the state level and cover the whole state? That's how we see this agenda going. They tried to do it from the top down. They tried to do it in the middle. Didn't work. They're coming from the bottom up to eventually get what they're after. The consequences of these bills, and you've probably heard some of these.
Here's one for you, called Sustainable Development Agenda 21. You probably heard that already. The United Nations and the Obama administration want to tell you how to live. And it's happening right here in Kansas, and probably happening in your state as well. On November 21st, 2011, the Department of Housing and Urban Affairs announced the Regional Economic Area Partnership, REAP, R-E-A-P, and the Flint Hills Regional Council, FHRC, as recipients of the 2011 Sustainable Communities Grants. These grants are a result of a partnership between HUD, the Department of Transportation, DOT, and the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, that was created on June 16, 2009, 5 months after President Obama took office. These planning grants are designed to help local communities to adopt sustainable development policies, also known as smart growth, livable communities, and UN Agenda 21. Proponents of these grants tell us this program will help lower the cost of future development and promote economic development. Sounds good. But this is actually true. Is this actually true, it says, and what are they not telling us? The counties of Sedgwick, Reno, Harvey, Butler, Summer, Morris, Gary, Riley, Wabansie, Pumpa, and on and on and on. Many others will be asked to participate in the future. This is a tremendous mistake, not only for the regions currently involved, but for the entire state of Kansas as well. By participating in the HUD grant, they have agreed to develop a plan for future development under the guidance and supervision of the federal government and the United Nations. Like a deadly virus, what begins in one part of the state could easily spread to the rest of the state. Unfortunately, most of the participants were never told about the real agenda and its disastrous consequences of higher housing costs, increased taxes, more environmental regulations, and fewer property rights. Yes, fewer property rights. I'm told that if you are to buy land to build a house on, you have to have a huge percentage of land for the house. Every state's different on how much land you have to have, but it's like quite a bit. You might check into that into your state area and find out what this is. What they are really trying to do is to get people not to buy houses, you know, like out in the country. They are trying to get you to move into the larger cities so they have more control on how you live and what you're doing. If you don't believe me on that, do your research. Let's see, more environmental regulations and fewer property rights. Nevertheless, they have paved the way for President Obama and his progressive big government agenda by inviting DOT, HUD, and the EPA to help us plan our communities. The program behind this grant is pure, unadulterated, liberal social engineering at its worst. The Obama administration has made it clear that their goals is to implement their principles through changes in local zoning and land use laws and regulations. The words of EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson should send a chill down the spine of every citizen, developer, and businessman. This partnership provides a framework to guide decisions that affect all communities. Incredibly, the supporters of this grant say that this partnership will reduce the cost of building communities in our region. The notion that introducing concepts like social equity and environmental justice into our planning process will lead to reduced cost is ridiculous, is what this says. Let's see here. I'm not finding how much land you have to have in this area, but I know it was quite a bit, so please do some research on this, and maybe it'll say something in the video. So let's watch this.
Here they say the prospect of subdividing a property is complicated factors. In general, the answer is no if the subdivision of any parcel is under 35 acres.
See, that's exactly, they're using 35, that paper recommended 80, Portland used 60. Just so you know, in this chart here, Colorado, its ratio is 3.7. So it's above the 3. See, some of these things that are happening, people say, well, we're not, how can that be, that's not going to happen. Well, it's already happening, we just don't know about it because we don't live there. And it sounds...
We look to the government to grant us the right to do things rather than we have those rights to start with. And we've seen groups take on this posture of trying to get the government to grant them the rights that they want, and it infringes upon everyone else's rights, which have existed since the Constitution was started. So I think it says a little bit more about the nature of the view of government that many people have.